Welcome back, episode 118 of the Beefy Boys Breakdown. We're about to go over the prelim portion of UFC 284, Volkanovski versus Makhachev. And, bro, these prelims were gas, bro. Jamie Malarkey's one of my favorite fighters. Not really, but I do like him. We got Culibao on here. And
It's
the
one of the
return of
funniest builds
Modestas
of all
Bukauskas.
time. That's one of the
So,
best builds of all time. One of my favorite fighters. Not really, but you know.
but he's a fun guy to watch. We
Oh
got
man.
Modestas Bukauskas back in the fold, so looking forward to breaking these down with you, brother.
Yeah, me too. No, I'm happy for it. Prelims featured on ESPN. 4 fights, so not the longest prelims, which I actually don't hate because we did have a 4 fight early prelim. So 8 fights
The
before a
four
five
four
fight.
five match layout is perfect.
Yeah, it's super, super sick. Especially when we had a great main card like we did. And honestly, this preliminary card had what? 2 decisions, 2 finishes, submission, and a TKO. So kind of gave you everything you wanted. I really
Yeah,
loved it. If
no.
you want to introduce the first fight, since you love Jamie Malarkey so much, he can tell us about how he's the
Dude,
favorite.
I do like Jamie Malarkey, man. Jamie Malarkey minus 275, which Vegas liked him too. Taking on Francisco Prado, and I believe it was his debut. He's only 20 years old, plus 230 dog, 11-0, undefeated, lightweight. And yeah, man, here's why I like Malarkey. I like Malarkey's body of work, man. I mean, he shut down the Devontae Smith hype train. He took the L to Jalen Turner, who's risen to go on to be a top 10 guy, might end up being a top 5 guy. Has the win over Michael Johnson. And, he's had a couple of fights fall through, so I'm happy he's getting a fight in. And he's tough as nails. He has a crazy chin. He's literally never in a boring fight ever. Even when he probably, should be. You know what I'm saying? Even this fight, third round, he's taking,
Yeah.
unnecessary risk, slugging it out. He's poor Australian Michael Chandler.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of is, sure. No, honestly, I think round by round in this fight, we don't necessarily have to go. I didn't have any rounds that were necessarily that close. I thought that he kind of outclassed Prado in different, I mean, the same kind of ways, but in every moment, he kind of won just slightly, man. Prado was there. His striking was there, but he couldn't deal with the clinch whenever the striking got too close. Or he couldn't, get up off the ground whenever Malarkey got him down. It was small things like that.
Well, he was levels behind. I don't know if anybody that watched our early prelim segment. If you haven't, go check it out. But our early prelim segment, I was pretty high on Jack Jenkins because everything he did looked so high level. The combinations, even the wrestling, everything was so dialed. And Prado was the exact opposite. Everything looked so
loose.
rough around the edges and loose. And I mean, both figuratively and literally.
You could see the raw talent, though. You could see the raw talent.
The heart. He's a fucking dog, right? He's a tough kid. Athletic kid, strong kid. Lot to like there, but almost everything I said about Jack Jenkins singing his praise, kind of the opposite can be said for Prado. And Malarkey, by example, was just so many levels ahead. Malarkey would mix it up, multiple limbs to multiple locations. Prado was pretty much headhunting, and he would land because Malarkey's a guy you can land on. But
but Malarkey's also tough, has a super strong chin, and you're not gonna really put him away doing that.
You're not 6'3" Jalen Turner, you're gonna have a problem putting him away. And it's Malarkey was mixing it up so well. Body, jabs to the body, elbows. He was just mixing it up. And like I said, Prado, he showed you all the intangibles you want, but just as far as being high level and maybe it's hard to say an 11-0 guy's not ready for the big show, but he's also 20 years old. I think he's out of Argentina. You don't hear a lot of high level promotions down there. I don't know the caliber of opponents he's seeing. So, I'm not by any, he could go on to do great things. He's 20 years old, but I just don't think he's there yet. And Malarkey, another win over another hype train derailed. This kind of reminds me of when he beat Devontae Smith and got the Jalen Turner fight. His level is Malarkey's never going to go on to be champ, never going to go on to be top 5, I don't think. But his level is he's UFC caliber.
He's 20 to 15 range, I'd say.
He is, man. He's not a bad fighter, and I don't know.
Well, then that's a tough debut for Francisco Prado.
Oh, very tough debut. You won't hear me. I mean, very, very tough debut. Yeah, there's lower guys that he probably would have beat up. Like, there was easier fights out there for sure. Tough debut, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't want to spend. I don't want to not give Jamie Malarkey his credit here, but I also don't want to spend too much time on it just because, like we just said, it is what it is. Jamie Malarkey probably not going to be that guy that we have to, project a future for. Prado, one of those guys that they're probably going to give a further back end guy. He'll probably show out in his next fight. We'll probably be talking about him then, but not now.
Yeah, and then Malarkey called out Patty. We'll touch on it real quick.
Yeah, it's the worst call out in sports at this point.
Thank you. That being said, hate it. Like, that would be a good next fight for Patty. It's just so played out.
To me, it's every.
You can say that about anybody.
It's every retired UFC fighter that calls out a boxer. That's what this is. Like, it's the worst call out you can make. It's terrible.
It is. It's like falling on deaf ears because it's so played out, right? Like I said, in a vacuum, would Malarkey like that be about the level of guy I'd like to see Patty go with? Do I think that would be a fun fight? Yeah, but. I feel you. Like, it just falls on deaf ears.
And I feel like they're giving him Conor McGregor type hype. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's like essentially begging for the Patty fight at this point. You're not calling him out. You're essentially begging for him to choose you.
It does. Ooh, I'm glad you said that. It does come across begging. And there is kind of, I always thought kind of the old school rule of like, you don't call out an injured guy. And I'm pretty sure Patty's having surgery next month. So, I mean, that's kind of weak too. I mean, it's not a big part of it, but that factors in.
I would love to see a guy that's cemented in the division, almost like a Thiago Moises kind of a guy, get a win, and essentially be like, fuck Paddy Pimblett. Like, give me a top 15 guy. The guy's not even ranked. He's worth nothing to me. I want the belt. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be refreshing to hear someone not call for the money fight because they're not going to make money because it's on a pay-per-view. I don't know why these guys call for Paddy when they're going to get their 12-12.
All right, clout-wise though, and
I get it. I get that.
Like, that would do a lot for your career, especially like a Jamie Malarkey, a guy who kind of struggled to get over and break through.
They want
to have that moment,
and as a bargaining chip with the UFC, it's like, I'm the guy that beat Patty. When you resign, like, give me a lot of money, or else like I'm gonna go somewhere else, and it's gonna be like null and void to your whole division that I beat him here because I'm not here now.
Let's keep it pushing, though. We got some flyweights up next. We got Shannon Ross making his debut at 33, which is always weird. A plus 285 dog. Clayton Rodriguez, minus 345. Really, I mean, it's not his first fight, but, I mean, I wasn't super familiar with him. And, man, he left an impression on me, man. That's how you make a statement.
He left a video game Mortal Kombat impression on me, if that's what you want to call it.
I got that vibe, too. I got that vibe too. Like,
so
he turned Shannon Ross into a human speed bag.
The first 35 seconds of the round is, pretty normal. You do notice Rodriguez's hand speed kind of off the rip. I mean, the way his hands are moving, even in front of himself, as defensively, is fast.
You know how hard it is to look fast, like in a flyweight UFC fight, because they're all fast. You know what I'm saying? That's like looking fast at a track meet. It's like you have to be next level.
So what impressed me about it is, because he does end up getting the finish here at 59 seconds in a video game combo, hyper speed, Dragon Ball Z style clip of him just
literally looks like anime.
Right, just beating Shannon Ross up, probably 30 strikes in like 12 seconds. It was, or probably less seconds, probably 8 seconds that he landed 30 strikes. It was insane. But
it was nuts.
What really got me was the fact that his fight IQ, man, he started with all that body work. Knee to the body, punch to the body, kick to the body. All this hard body work that's getting Shannon Ross's guard down, and then he starts clipping him in the head, and then gets him again in the body with another hard hook, leans him over, and then starts piecing out his head on the fence. I mean, it was just a fight IQ mixed with, like, insane hand speed.
Human speed bag. Shannon, the human speed bag Ross, is going to unfortunately be the reputation that follows him around. I mean, tough debut. I mean, Rodriguez, man, this guy's a fucking dog. I'm excited for him. It's flyweight. We talk about it. All those divisions that aren't crazy deep, like bantamweight and featherweight and lightweight, leave room for a potential fast rise. And flyweight is one of those thinner divisions. He's a long way. He's only 27 years old. I mean, I'm just high on him. I think he lost his debut to CJ Vergara decently, and it was a split decision. Pretty tough debut. I mean, he had a fight fall through with Cody Durden. He had a fight fall through with Zaruk Adashev. So, I mean, they're putting him like, I don't know, man. I think he could be a factor. I'm not saying he's the end-all, be-all. Got a long way to the top, but I'm just saying, I mean, more infusion of talent in the flyweight division, I'm fucking here for it.
Yeah, and I like Rodriguez's intangible skills, right? Like his speed, his athleticism, his IQ is good too. I think. Like I think he's a fun fight, and I'm not going to say that he's a top 15 guy necessarily, but you definitely in flyweight it's the most important thing to get a 15 through 30, because there's always going to be a top 15 guys, but when you have 15 through 30, that means you're pushing the top 15 up.
Yes, and cycling out it's survival of the fittest. It gets the cream to the top for sure. Also, I don't think that like outclassed by Tyson Nam either, who's sitting at 15. So he may be a little closer.
That's what I mean. But that's my point is that like even if he's 16, 17, 18, 13, and Tyson Nam's actually 16 or 17, like it's super important to the way the division keeps its players at the top and the way the guys can rise through the bottom.
Yes, and like that's what we love about like welterweight right now. We got all these young, fresh names coming up through the rankings. Yeah, for sure, man. But we can keep it pushing. To Melsik Bagdasaryan minus 105 versus Josh Culibao minus 150.
Pick of the card.
It was, man, and I'm definitely going to give you your flowers on that because Vegas couldn't even make up their mind on this, and you felt pretty goddamn good about Culibao. I mean, you suggested that I bet Culibao. It was one of your picks you felt strongest about, and goddamn, it came to fruition. Granted,
that being said,
looking feather, yeah, it wasn't always sunshine and rainbows because I mean, Bagdasaryan came out strong in round one.
Now, what are the odds here? Culibao minus 115, Bagdasaryan minus 105. Is that correct?
Yep. Yes,
so essentially a coin toss pick, and minus 110 would be even each way. So we're slightly off that. Culibao is like the slightest favorite you could be. That being said, I thought Bagdasaryan was doing a great job of being off the center line. He was faster than Culibao anticipated, and he was countering him pretty well in the first round. And then whenever he would jab and lead, he would also get there first, and Culibao couldn't counter him. I scored the first round 10-9 to Bagdasaryan.
Me too, especially because no point was deducted for the spinning back kick to the nuts. It was one of the worst nut shots I've ever seen. Like, literally, I'm not even exaggerating. Like, it was so bad, landed so bad.
Culibao took 3.5 minutes to recover.
Dug the heel all the way into the nuts. It was so brutal. Culibao, I mean, even after the 3.5 minutes, wasn't super well recovered.
Sorry about that.
Harrison's over here having
Sorry
a
about
reaction. Yeah, I mean, nut shot aside, he tore up Colibao's nose. I mean, super accurate. I felt like everything Bagdasaryan threw landed clean. Like it was, Culibao was having a hard time getting out of the way of the shot. So shit was not looking good for our bets or for Culibao going into round two. But man, it was a hell of a little sequence, man. It was pretty cool. How long did round two last? I forgot to note that down.
So 2 minutes and 2 seconds. So they did trade on the feet there for maybe a minute and 35, minute and 40. Before Melsik Bagdasaryan honestly kind of just made a mistake and slipped and gave his back up, and Culibao wasted literally no time at all getting on the back.
Well, he slipped right after Culibao landed a really stiff jab, like maybe Colibao's best jab of the fight. So that's why it's like it's not fluky, like 100% fluky. Like maybe if that jab happens 10 times, he only slips 2 or 3 times, But I don't think you can remove the jab from like the cause of slip like 100% disconnected. You know what I mean?
I think that's fair to say. That's definitely fair to say because he did get stung.
Yes, it was a very crisp, stiff jab. Probably Colibao's best jab of the fight. So. Hell of a coincidence if he just happened to slip and it was just a freak accident. So I want to give Culibao a little credit there. But where Culibao really gets the credit is after the stumble, there'd been like zero grappling really to this point in the fight at all. But right on Bagdasaryan's stumble, jumps on the back. Like I would say jumped on the back, but he really went straight to the neck. Like there was really no
He was quick with it.
It was insane, like a snake.
Essentially, yeah, like Bagdasarian hits one knee and goes down. Culibao's already around his neck by the time he's trying to post a hand. And then he's getting both of his hooks in at that instant, rolls him over, chokes him out.
Like it was over quick.
It was perfect. As a guy that bet on Culibao, it was perfect, at least.
Oh, yeah, exactly. But also, I mean, for Culibao to recover from the nut shot and the nose, and he had taken some damage, and just to be so instinctive with it. And I mean, he's not necessarily known as like a grappler, you know. I don't know, man. It was impressive. I mean, just to jump straight on the neck like that. Like I said, there wasn't. Most guys would take the back, sure, and that's impressive in its own right. But just it was pretty risky, but high risk, high reward. Just ended the fight like in a blink of an eye. And a fight that had been a totally stand-up fight that he had been losing, to finish it by sub in a blink of an eye. This is another one that like could have got a bonus and didn't. Rodriguez, Culibao, there's another one later like coming up. There was plenty that I thought could have got bonuses that didn't. I mean, Rodriguez and Culibao got a little argument to make that they could have deserved $50K. Those are both impressive as shit.
I think
for different reasons.
I think most of the fights on the main card have an argument if they were not awarded one.
Yeah, for sure, man. But yeah, I mean, good win for Culibao. I mean, highly touted kickboxer in Bagdasarian. Featherweight's, he's the perfect, like when we say sentences like featherweight's so deep, Culibao is the perfect example of that, because he's so skilled, so tough, so badass, and he's not really sniffing the rankings. So it's like that when we say featherweight's so deep, like that's what we're talking about.
Right. Like, I mean, you have Jenkins,
Culibao.
Culibao, and Builder all on this card at featherweight that are all not really top 15 guys, but might be close to it. I mean, all three of those guys, you know, but those are fun guys for each other to fight to see who keeps rising. And I think that's essentially where featherweight's at, is like, Culibao's probably going to get one of those guys next. I think that would make sense. It's just, who does the UFC want to promote? And I would assume that's probably Builder. And a Builder Culibao fight's cool, but like,
yeah, I think Jenkins Culibao's a heater.
Jenkins Culibao's a super heater, but they're from the same area, so I just don't know they're from the same camp.
Oh, good question. Good question for sure. Yeah, man, it's a good win for Culibao, and just like really speaks to the quality of the featherweight division. I mean, it sounds like I'm kind of taking credit, like the spotlight off of Culibao and shining it on the division, but like I said, to have a guy like Culibao that's just kind of like hanging around, not really relevant, but just world class. I mean, that's just crazy talented division. But we can keep it pushing to Modestas Bukauskas, plus 185 in his return, had found himself out of the UFC, injured, on a losing streak, like really rock bottom if you're a UFC fighter, right? You're injured, you're cut. And I think he goes on to become the Cage Warriors champion, which is a very respected promotion outside of the UFC. Gets this short notice call to fight Tyson Pedro, minus 215 favorite in light heavyweight division. And we love the Pedro value. This was like
he looked great in his last fight. He's been all about first round finishes. Bukauskas is one of those guys that starts slow. It seemed like the value was here all day long.
Yeah, we put him on like multiple parlays, and
yeah, I actually would have hit one had he won.
Yes, that was tough. That being said, though, it was all Bukauskas. Like, it wasn't close. It was by like a wide margin. You could throw the word outclassed in there if you want to. Like, Pedro got dunked on it. Like, I mean, Pedro looked so much slower, much like less advanced.
The first round was close, just because Pedro wasn't gassed at all. So his speed was there, his power was there. He was landing some big shots.
He got the takedown.
Yeah. I scored the first round to Pedro.
See, I didn't. I do acknowledge that Pedro got a good takedown and had that guillotine attempt was pretty deep, but we talked about it before in the podcast. A choke that doesn't land or finish the fight doesn't really inflict damage like a heel hook or a Kimura or something that can impact the fight moving forward, so it's hard to score it. And I thought Bukauskas got good damage off, man. I mean, he landed some clean, hard bombs. He just looked so much faster. Like, it looked almost like he was fighting like a heavyweight. Like, they looked almost like a different divisions. There's the speed advantage or disadvantage. Like, the margin, the gap on the speed was like jumping off the screen to me, like that, in a bad way for Pedro. So, I don't know. I liked Bukauskas. I don't hate you giving it to Pedro, but I thought Bukauskas did quite a bit more damage. I mean, even though Pedro got the takedown in the Gilly attempt.
Okay, so I agree with you for the most part. I did think when Pedro landed, they were just huge shots. Like there were 2 times that he
Big
essentially
strong guy.
like rocked Bukauskas. So I was
Fair,
like, okay. Now one judge did agree with you, 2 judges agree with me there. So it is a close round. Needless to say, I think we both illustrate the sides well. Now from that point on, Bukauskas dominates.
Yes, he really starts to
Pedro
turn
was
it up a little
gassing
bit.
by 2 minutes in of round 2. And
Yeah,
obviously, if you're
like
gassing then, you're going to be gassed in the third round if that occurs.
this is really a question of did Bukauskas look that good or did Pedro look that bad? Somewhere in the middle, a little bit of both.
I
But
think a little of both, yeah. I think Pedro
because
very much
Pedro
underwhelmed. I think Bukauskas slightly
got a lot
overperformed what I
better,
expected, yeah.
but also got better though.
Yes,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
he
like, yes, like I think his skill set's improved.
mindset probably right, hitting rock bottom, like fighting your way back, being a Cage Warriors champ, getting the win over Pedro. I don't know, man. I like I like his character arc here, man. It's fucking it's sick. Like I mean, I
Well,
never
especially
really
after the
understood it.
devastating injury he suffers from Khalil Roundtree.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what a comeback! Like, this is like NFL gives out award like comeback player of the year. Like, if the UFC did something like that, which I guess they kind of do, but still, I mean, that's the
I
vibe.
mean, if he has a good year this year, he will be that guy.
Yeah,
He actually
exactly.
has the opportunity to be that guy with probably 2 or 3 more wins this year.
Great point for sure. But yeah, I mean, really just like, and then there was a bad low kick to Bukauskas too, which probably just was as a result of Pedro being gassed and just throwing like sloppy shots and just being gassed probably. And then round 3, Bukauskas really ended the round in that brutal flurry. Like, I don't know, man. Credit to Pedro's chin for not getting finished because the second and third round, I mean, Bukauskas was so much fresher, so much faster, was getting off hard, clean shots. Never Pedro. I don't think he ever even got knocked down. So I mean, crazy chin on Pedro, and I mean, tough guy. Hung in there, but just seemed a little bit out of shape and seemed to kind of have like a one-dimensional game plan. And I don't know. I think it's like 90% of it was cardio, honestly.
I would agree with that. Now, do you think either one of these guys has like a big future in light heavyweight?
I think because granted it's getting deeper, but light heavyweight's still not the deepest division. Sure. Like both Cousins, I'm pretty sure still decently young, like 28 or something. So yeah, I don't see why not. And he looked like really fast, really good shape, really strong.
I mean, Roundtree is pretty
But
much
he
the
did
back end, and that's who destroyed his knee.
that. That is who destroyed his knee, but that is kind of like he's got like a spamming that move, kind of. You know what I mean? Like he caught him
True,
with
and
that
he's not going to
oblique
hit it
kick.
again.
You would hope.
Yeah, good point.
Or even like, I mean, one of those things like him versus Dustin Jacoby's like a fun fight to watch, which means it's a competitive fight, which means he's not like outclassed by the top 15. Like, do I predict that he's going to like run through the division like a hot knife through butter? Hell no. But I mean, he does look a lot better and he performed really well. And I'm kind of questioning Pedro, like, because when a guy shows up out of shape like that, like, is he training hard? Is his heart still in it? Like, like, what's the situation there? So I'm more like dauber down on Pedro than I guess I am dauber up on Bukauskas, if that's
You know
fair.
what's so weird about Pedro is every time they give him a big moment, he disappoints. It's like
Yes,
he might be one of those
exactly.
gym killers, man. That like in the gym he's just a murderer, but he can't show up on fight day.
He just performed really badly, right? Exactly.
I mean that, but I feel like it's all the time with him in the UFC.
Yeah. If he's not getting the first round knockout, it's all or nothing
Right.
kind of.
Right. He's
Yeah.
like a full like gas, like pedal to the metal, like I'm going all out to the wall. And if it doesn't work, he just is like a defeated shell and just takes a beating for the extra 10 minutes.
And it seems to be like a repeating pattern, right? Like it's not really getting better. It's not being addressed. It's not
Right,
like
right. And they were talking about that in the broadcast that all of his wins have came in the first round and that if he goes to decision, he doesn't win. So it's pretty much guaranteed that like if you bet the over on the 1.5, you might as well take Bukauskas with it.
that was a good point from a betting perspective for sure. And speaking of betting a first round, this main card starts with a banger, a heater of a first round, and we'll get to that here in a second. But man, it was fun talking about the prelims. That's what kind of separates our shows from other shows. You know, not a lot of shows out there talking about every single fight, including the prelims. So that's just another reason to check out our channel, give us a subscribe, and check out some of our other videos because we're going to deep depth on the prospects, on the future of the divisions and the prelim fights, which not a lot of shows out there are doing. So give our channel a look.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to tease the main card a little bit for all you people at home, the first 4 fights occurred in the fastest window of time ever in UFC pay-per-view history. So, excluding the main event, we had the fastest 4 fights in pay-per-view history. So, don't miss out on that.
No.
That is something you can't sleep on. They're
important.
all heater fights. They're all impactful. Honestly, UFC 284 did not disappoint.
Did not disappoint for sure, man. We'll get to it here in a second. We'll be back with that main card.